Here's some more Captain Crunch for you. That's such a satisfying sound. So, so we're back on our 73 ambulance project.
Bruh.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I have so many bloopers. I have a blooper.
Oh my God. So everybody, we're back on our 73 Olds Ambulance project. We're really excited to get back on it and share this with you. A little bit of note about where we've been the last few weeks. A few weeks ago, I had to have rotator cuff surgery, so I've been running around with a wounded chicken wing, and which has slowed down our filming. But we're back in here through the magic of TV, and 6 weeks later, I'm able to do a little bit of work. I want to talk a little bit about Cotner Bevington. This car was converted by Cotner Bevington. Cotner Bevington was located in Blytheville, Arkansas, just northeast Arkansas. This is car 102 for the year of 1973. And Cotner Bevington was a spin-off of Comet Coach Company out of Memphis. Back in the day, there were 4 coach companies in Memphis, and Comet was one of them. Comet Coach Company sold the name to Ford Mercury for the Comet Mercury, which was a compact Ford car in the 60s. There were 3 partners. They then reformed, 2 of them, Cotner and Bevington, reformed the Cotner Bevington Coach Company in Blytheville, Arkansas. Early 1970s, I believe it's 1973, there was a federal EMS act that came along that set standards for ambulances. And this is about the time you started seeing suburban ambulances coming about, van conversion ambulances, and a lot of these standards that came out in 1973 that were set to go in effect 5 years later into 1978, those standards set minimum height standards, length, capacity. All of the modern ambulance really evolved from that act. That is the act that really killed the ambulance hearse combination as we know it. Back in the day, funeral homes typically operated the ambulances. They would have combination hearses. Cotner Bevington was one of them, Miller was one of them, where you would have side panels you would put on the side that had the landau bars. So during the day, you were running the car as a funeral car. You would remove the panels, you would see the ambulance, and they would make runs at night in order to provide service to their community for the ambulance. Of course, the early days, ambulance service was not like it is today. You didn't have paramedics and EMTs. It was usually a grab and go thing where we would try to get people to the hospital or medical help as quickly as possible. There wasn't a lot of on-site treatment other than just stabilizing the patient and transporting them as rapidly as possible. So this car I'm really excited about. It was really built from the beginning to be an ambulance. As you can see, it has the beacon ray mount. The headliner actually has a zipper in the headliner so that they could service the light. This one has etched ambulance in the glass. It has flip over panels in the floor, which was common for the day, where you could have a smooth floor or you could flip them over and have the rollers to service a casket. But I'm gonna dare say this car served the majority of its life in the ambulance business. What we're gonna do today, take inventory of the car, what it needs. We're planning on doing a cosmetic and mechanical restoration. It's not going to be a frame-off restoration, but what we want to do is return this car to parade grade, where we can take it out, we can enjoy it, we can share the history that's long been lost and forgotten of ambulances and hearses and how it's all evolved. But as you see and look at the car, you can tell it's a little worse for wear. This car has a vinyl top on it, which creates all kinds of issues with rust. Moisture got trapped under them, rotted them out. The biggest and most obvious problem that we have with this car is the rust across the top of the windshield, which is very common for these cars and even modern cars, to the point when they quit making them out of metal and started making them out of fiberglass. So today we're going to remove the windshield. Because of my arm, I'm going to bring in some of my pallbearers from the shop. I've got Daniel and Brian coming in. They're going to remove the windshield, and then we're going to kind of take inventory of what's in the car, because we've had the car for months and I've been seeing all these little gems and treasures inside, and I can't wait to start pulling all this stuff out and playing with it. So the 800-pound gorilla in the room is obviously the rust. We've got 3.5, 4 inches of rot back that is rotted back into the roof line. And what we've got to do is remove this windshield, and in a later episode, the next episodes, we're going to come in and do the metal work to restore all this and replace all this metal work. When I first spied this car in Brinkley, I just knew it had a 455 Oldsmobile in it, the big block, big beast. But again, Cotner Bevington, they specialized in the more simple cars and affordable cars. To keep them simple, this car has a 350 Oldsmobile in it. The nice thing about this car is the gentleman we got it from had just had the engine rebuilt in it. The engine oil in it was still clean. It had been sitting up for about 10 years. It's still infested with dirt daubers. Most everything in here, I think we're going to be able to salvage. We're going to have to go through the air conditioning system. It's got a lot of parts missing. We're going to do a lot of cleanup, rattle can rebuild, and check through all those systems and again, make it parade ready. We've been getting a lot of questions about my little jerry rig fuel can up here. The reason we had to do an alternative fuel source is because the fuel tank is full of really old rotten gas, and I suspect it's rusted, corroded, and full of trash. So this is a little contraption that I came up with to help me resurrect old vehicles, anything from a lot of my old military vehicles we mess with, and whatever we need to get going and get it going quick. The nice thing about this is it's got an electric fuel pump. We put our fuel can in it. We bypass the fuel pump, go straight to the carburetor, and this lets us run clean fuel through the carburetor, get it all loaded, move it around without having to push it. So one of the common problems you have with 60s and 70s cars, the hoods are the size of conference tables. They're just huge and they're heavy. The hinges have a tendency to rust up, freeze up, get hard to close, and you get somebody that just keeps pulling and wailing on the hood. And what happens is you wind up breaking the hood. The hood structure here has been compromised, broke over, and kinked. So we're going to have to go in and reinforce all that, probably cut some stuff out and re-weld. We'll press it back into shape, finish it all out, make it brand new. One of the coolest things about the Oldsmobile, these years model, is the way the dashboard curves around and makes it ergonomic for the driver. It's just got a really neat look, kind of aircraft-like, or maybe even a little bit spaceship-like. So I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a funny buzz. And when we first connected up the battery, we had the door open, and we're like, oh my God, we've got a huge short. But then I remembered when I was a little kid back in the 70s, all the cars had a buzzer in them to let you know that the door was open or the headlights were on, and that's what you're hearing.
There's a switch down there. What does that switch do?
That is some of your emergency lighting equipment. On the other side, we actually have a siren button and the rotating beacon. I haven't been able to get the rotating beacon working, but I haven't checked the fuses to it. There's an extra fuse panel out here that we need to check. For the Boomers and X, you guys know how these door panels work, but for your Millennials and your Xenos, you've probably never seen this. This is a window crank. This is how you crank your window up and down. And this is your power window, which is actually a cable-driven system that it's not power window, power mirror, but it's got cables through there instead of electricity that physically move the mirror. All right. Now, this is where they stored the spare tire. I haven't looked at it, but believe it or not, your spare tire, and I just tore that, is stored right back here behind the driver's seat. And this one is not missing. They've actually got air conditioning in this one. I think the spare may be on the other side, but you've got your air conditioning controls. Okay. Yeah, if you look over there, you can see your spare tire is behind the passenger seat.
There it is.
Yeah, way over there. And then this is climate controls for the rear compartment. So today there's a lot of little things that we take for granted, and one of them is seatbelts. Nobody thinks twice about a seatbelt, but back in the day, for you to have a shoulder restraint seatbelt, you had to take this loose, and it's all fastened in here. It's probably not been undone in 30 years. And this was your shoulder, which you pulled your retracting waist belt out and connected that up, and this is what gave you your shoulder restraint. It was solid mounted, it didn't retract, and you had to adjust that for your body. I mean, it's almost like the next best thing to a race car harness. So don't take seat belts for granted, guys. I ain't putting that back. So back in the day, they had energy absorbing bumpers, and in order to have that with these big, huge chrome bumpers, that thing probably weighs 150 pounds, they had to have flexible boots that extended from the sheet metal to the tail light. Of course, on these older cars, those things rot and dry out and go away after about 20 years, and this car is definitely in need. As you can see, they are missing. We will have to fabricate those and recreate them, but you can see where they were rubber and just totally gone. Another thing was back in the day on these particular cars, the gas tank was filled behind the license plate. It had a spring-loaded license plate. You would fuel it. Of course, when they converted the car to an ambulance, you had the obvious issue, you couldn't put it in the back door. So they modified the bumper in order to put it into the bumper here for the ambulance. Here's some more Captain Crunch for you. That's such a satisfying sound. Nameplate holders. Your funeral homes, all your funeral homes, even in modern hearses these days, have these little twist knobs to where they can put their nameplates in them to identify what funeral home they belong to. We also have another version of that, but I believe that was originally for curtain rods that they've adopted for a plexiglass with ambulance on it. One of the things that Cotner Bevington did to keep costs low was they used a lot of extruded aluminum. If you see one of these cars or a hearse or ambulance that has a lot of extruded aluminum, chances are it's a Cotner Bevington. This was a quick, down dirty, easy way that looked really good, particularly back in the day when it was shiny, to frame out your windows and to make that trim pieces. Whereas on your Cadillacs, your M&Ms, your Superiors, those other brands, they actually had formed stainless. They had the stamps where they stamped the stainless where it looked more factory and more original. But Cotner Bevington was about providing affordable funeral cars and ambulances. When I was a kid growing up in the funeral home, my dad would buy and sell hearses and limousines to help supplement the funeral home when things were slow. I remember being fascinated with the early 60s, 70s ambulances because they had this zipper in the headliner. And it's in a V shape, and the whole point behind it was you can unzip your headliner to access the beacon ray and how it mounts in order to service the beacon ray. Yeah. But look at the cabinet up above the window. Okay, so one of the things I was fascinated with as a kid when I was riding in the back was most of this era car had this storage compartment overhead that went over the driver's compartment that you access from the back. When I was a teenager, we had an old clunker out there, and it may or may not have been a liquor storage cabinet.
That's so funny. Oh wow, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, it's a big compartment. I've got Daniel and Brian here. I'm going to let them do the heavy hitting. They're going to be my pallbearers and carry the load today.